Hello, my friend, and welcome. This is the Back to Me podcast, and I am Heather, and I am super excited that you are here. And I just want to let you know that you're going to hear some tips and some tricks, some ideas, all to help you live your happiest and healthiest life. It is called Back to Me because when you are taking care of yourself, then you can take better care of others. And my goal is to make the world a better place. This is Wellness Your Way. I am really happy that you're here. Your true self is waiting. So it is time to step up and thrive. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Back to Me podcast in accelerated motion because we have lots of episodes coming out and all with super amazing people because that's the way we roll here. And we're talking to another super amazing person, Allie Cass. Hello.
Hi, Heather. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. I've been talking to functional people a lot most recently, and I think it's becoming more of a accepted thing maybe, or people are realizing how helpful it is. Functional health and fitness. It's a lot of alliterations going on there. So maybe what you can start with is, and this will kind of lead into it, is like, how did you get into it? But also, what do you think it means to be a functional health and fitness coach versus just a personal trainer? And that's not to say a personal trainer is just friends. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. No, I love that question because I started, as just doing nutrition and then got into personal training, and it's evolved just like, we all do in our own journeys. But yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Allie Cass. I'm a functional health and fitness coach, also a master NLP practitioner and certified hypnotherapist. So I help busy, stressed out women optimize their metabolism, up-level their mindset, and shift from surviving to thriving. So to answer your first question, before I go into a little bit about my background and how I got into this, functional health and functional fitness, what that means and what I think makes it different than just really segmenting, one aspect of health like personal training or just nutrition or just this one thing, is with the functional approach, it's very holistic. It's very root cause oriented. So I think one of the reasons, to touch on what you said at the beginning about, it's gaining a lot of traction, people are becoming more accepting of it, is I think in this day and age, people want answers. They don't want to be stuck in this system where, they get sick, they're prescribed a pill, it temporarily alleviates whatever the condition is, and then, they get sick again with something else, or they have to take another pill to manage the side effects of that pill. And I think people are just tired of the way that medicine and just the way that a lot of these systems in our current society are set up. And so I think people want answers. They want to get back to the root of the issue. And so when it comes to functional health, one of the things that we seek to do is we seek to identify at the core, why is this happening to you? So not only do we want to fix it, we want to address the symptom or we want to address the condition, but we want to understand why is this happening, and we want to go to the source. So for my women or my people out there who are into gardening, let's say, like when you have a weed, you don't just, cut it, right? Like you pull the root out, or else it's just going to continue to grow back quick and over and over. And so when we look at health, we look at it the same way. And one of the things that I'm so passionate about is not just looking at the physical side of health, but looking at the mental and emotional aspect as well. Because one thing I've learned in my journey personally and working with clients for almost 8 years now is a lot of times we have physical symptoms and physical manifestations that actually stem from mental and emotional challenges, things that have happened to us in the past, things that we carry with us that start to suppress, or that, when they're suppressed, start to manifest physically in the body. So a lot of different reasons why something could be happening. And oftentimes the best approach is one that takes, an integrated look at someone's life as a whole. So that's a little bit about functional health.
And how did you get into functional? Like, I know you said you started in that nutrition world, but
yes,
maybe it's just me. When I was growing up, I didn't want to study nutrition. I just wanted to eat. But,
yeah.
So what drew you down that path?
Yeah, great question. Because when I was growing up, I also didn't want to study nutrition. I grew up an athlete. So physical fitness and exercise, that's always been very much ingrained in who I am. I was a college basketball player. Shortly after embarking on that journey, I realized it was no longer for me. So I decided to go a different direction and just focus on my studies. When I was 21, I graduated college. Shortly after, I found out that my mom was diagnosed with a stage 3 rare form of brain cancer. Luckily, I had just graduated, right? So I was able to move across the country and essentially become her caregiver, because at the time she was somewhat of a caregiver to my dad. So he would not have been able to do it on his own. I moved out there. They were living in Arizona at the time. And he and I together took care of her for the last 9 months of her life. So it was a very pivotal point for me. Again, I had just graduated college. I initially studied business and economics, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with that. But as I started to help her and care for her, I would take her to her daily oncology appointments. I would take her to her primary care physician. And I just started to ask the question of, why does this happen to somebody? Now, that's obviously a very aggressive diagnosis. No doctor is going to tell you that this is caused by this. But it really became a form of coping for me to just start doing research on why someone gets cancer, what makes somebody healthy, what are the factors that influence what's going on internally in someone's body. Because truthfully, for my entire life, my mom was relatively healthy, maybe on a blood pressure medication here or there, but she was not an unhealthy individual by Western medical standards. So unfortunately, she lost her battle with cancer. I was 22 years old. I found myself also being in a very unhealthy place in life. I was overweight. I was exhausted. I was using alcohol, food, you name it, to just numb my emotions. And I finally hit this point where I just realized if this is how life was going to be, I did not want to engage with it anymore. And I knew in that moment something had to change. So I went back to what I knew, which was exercise, physical fitness, and I decided, to hire a personal trainer. She talked me into doing bodybuilding. I thought it was an awful idea. I had no interest in it, but at that point in life, I was very lost. I didn't have anything I was working toward, and I was so used to having that goal that I was striving for. So I figured, why not? It served me very well for about 2 years of my life, but I saw that pendulum swing from very unhealthy to now I'm so obsessed with health. My whole day revolves around when my next meal is going to be. I am developing, some level of body dysmorphia because I'm comparing myself to these individuals who are stepping on stage. And so, again, kind of going from one extreme to the other. Yes. And then
you're like,
after, yeah, it was a total pivot. It was a total pivot. And I will be honest, it served me in a lot of ways at the time. It gave me an outlet and it gave me something to work toward. And I learned a lot in the process. I had a wonderful coach and I'm very, very grateful for her because she opened up the door to me for exploring nutrition and exploring fitness at a deeper level. So after competing for about 2 years, I decided to take a pause and focus on myself and my career. And I decided I really wanted to help women learn how to transform and learn how to basically be their own health advocate. And it was through that process that I started going down that rabbit hole, and I'm so deep in the rabbit hole now. I'm like, we're never getting out of it.
Now you live there.
Exactly. The more I learned, though, the more excited I was about it. So like I said, I got my nutrition coaching certification, got my personal training certification, decided I wanted to go on and get my certification as an integrative nutrition health coach, and then moved on from that to get certified as a functional nutritionist and human metabolism specialist, have done nutritional therapy programs, and then a functional health practitioner program, and then decided, you know what, I love the physical body, but that's not enough for me. I need to understand how someone's mindset, how someone's emotional state is affecting their body. And that's what led me into the NLP route.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so funny. So I don't know if you know about CanFit Pro, which is the certifying body in Canada for personal trainers and fitness instructors. And there's a woman who presents it every year at the conference who has all these letters after her name because she's like you, she's done so much. And my husband and I, so I've been a yoga teacher and personal trainer. Well, yoga teacher for 20 years, personal trainer for probably 18 or 19. And we always joke that, are you going to get as many letters as so-and-so? It's like, no, I don't need the competition. But I get it. Like you want to know, and then that just leads you to the next thing because I mean, my coaching was the same way. I started business coaching and then it's like, but there's a mindset aspect to it. And there actually is a physical health aspect to you being successful in your business and your relationships affect. So it's just like, Same thing. More, have to keep adding on so you can help people. And I mean, I'm like you, I love it. I'm like, oh, I want to know more about that. And I want to know more about that. You haven't stopped, have you?
No, I am taking, I'm taking a pause. One of my mentors is like, do you really need to go do that certification program right now? I'm like, probably not. So I've realized there's a lot of value in pausing and integrating, and also slowing down is actually a big thing that I am trying to embody more of in my personal life. And it's something I talk with clients a lot about because we're all so busy. There's always going to be that next thing. And so I do think there's value in really appreciating where you're at and just mastering what you have in front of you.
Right. Yeah. If you keep skipping along, you don't get to fully integrate the lessons that come. I mean, they might come further down the road when you go, oh, shoot, I knew that. And then I didn't know that.
Right.
And it's true. Like I find some people I think want, and then you can tell me what you think of this. Some people I think want to avoid the idea that it's something in their mindset or something in their personal values that affects their health, because they feel like they would blame them. It's almost like they blame themselves for it instead of just owning it and saying, well, this did happen and I want to change this. So do you see that? And is that something you help with shifting?
100%. So when I bring a client in, I take them through what's called it's a breakthrough session. Essentially, it's an 8-hour session where we're just focusing on. It's a lot, time? Yes. At one time, sometimes we divide it into 2 4-hour sessions. Basically, depends on what the scheduling is like for a client.
Super intense.
It is intense. It's wonderful that we go through and we do a ton of identification on, past limiting beliefs. We go through like an entire personal history of someone's life, basically just taking inventory of everything internally. We go through an entire release process. We do a values elicitation. We talk about not just future goals, but who does that individual, like where are they at now and who do they need to become in order to step into this next version of themselves. And so I do find that most of the time when someone comes to me or we get to that point, they are like, yes, I own that responsibility. I'm ready to move forward. But, prior to that, I do see a lot of resistance for a lot of individuals because I think that there's this misconception that if I have the responsibility, I'm also at fault. And I think there's a difference because something can happen to you where, life does what it does. It lifes, right? Sometimes there are circumstances that may not directly be your fault, but it is your responsibility to decide how you're going to respond to it, what you're going to do with that, and how you choose to move forward. And I think people kind of get those two confused. And of course, nobody wants to be at fault, right? Nobody wants to have blame. And it can be challenging when it feels like things aren't going well for you to say like, I am responsible for this. Like some people just, I don't think are ready for that.
Right. And it's too bad because if someone could recognize that it doesn't make you good or bad, it's not a judgment thing. It's becoming the owner of your experience and what you're going to do with it. Probably you would tell your kids that, but we don't do it for ourselves. Like, become the CEO of your life, friend. Take control, start driving your own ship, whatever it is whatever metaphor you like. And then you get to decide where to drive the ship. And I love that you said, because I say this a lot to my clients, is like, you're here, you want to be there, but there's an in-between part. Because I would never say this, but I could say, I want to be an opera singer. I can't sing. I better do the things I need to do to learn how to sing if I want to be an opera singer. But do you find when people are goal setting that that's something that they skip? What do I need? The skill set building along with the mindset building.
I do think so. And I think that a lot of people just don't think about that aspect, right? They think, okay, what's this outcome? And I don't think a lot of times people think about the actual tangible steps, because it's great to set that outcome goal, but it's like, to your point, what are you doing in the interim to get you there? And more importantly, how is that helping you develop into the person that you need to become in order to get that? Because in my opinion, that's really where the value is in any kind of transformation. It's not, the end goal is like a momentary blip in time. What you carry forward from that is all of the skills that you've built, all of the character that, you've you've created, all of these things that are internal within you. That's the real value of any, hitting any goal or even working toward any goal, in my opinion.
Right.
And I think that, I think people oftentimes miss that, and I've been guilty of this too, setting that goal. And we're just like, it's like throwing a Hail Mary to the universe. We're like, fingers crossed, let's go. And it's like, but do we actually have a roadmap of how we're going to get there and ways to kind of measure that? And, somebody to keep us accountable. And, when we're not in the mindset that, we're having a hard day and we're having those limiting beliefs come up, like, how are we going to address that? How are we going to overcome that so we can keep moving forward?
Like when you have that voice that says, oh, it's kind of raining. I don't feel like going to the gym today. Mm-hmm. Well, really? Why is that? Right. But it's funny because this just popped into my head, which I'd never thought about before, but should have been obvious, is, let's say your goal, whatever your goal is, and I'm using this one because it's easier. Your goal is to become a champion bodybuilder on stage, right? You wouldn't be the 90-pound weakling and go, I'm visualizing becoming a bodybuilder on stage. You would actually have a trainer who would set a plan, and you have milestones and you have like targets you need to hit and a workout plan, and you got to go do your workouts. So I think any goal you could use that kind of idea is, I want my business to be X, or I want I don't know, what kind of goals do you find people work on with you?
Most of them are health, but a lot of times it's relationship with self. I help a lot of women on, because that was another thing I found in my journey, and my mom being the inspiration essentially for everything I do. Like, looking, great is great. That's nice. That's one thing. But if you're not developing a better relationship with yourself and you're not actually addressing what's going on internally, to me, we're just further solidifying a facade of unhappiness and unfulfillment. And so for me, when I work with women, even if it's on their health, it's on their physique, whatever that looks like, for me, it's more important to ascertain, like, why is this actually going to help somebody? How is it going to make their life better? And that's really the driver of why we're doing what we're doing. I don't know if that answers.
And if you think about it, like, it's a kind of a grass is greener thing. You can go, that woman is so beautiful. She must, and we somehow say she must be the happiest person on the planet. Mm-hmm. That's probably not true. She probably doesn't think she's the most beautiful person in the world, and she has her own internal dialogues, but somehow we've transferred our happiness to this outer, whatever, this vision we have, where I'm more like, how do I feel inside, right. Because I do talk about physical health, but I don't talk about, I say it's not the runway model physical health. It's like, can you play with your grandkids? Can you walk up the stairs? Do you feel good on a regular basis? And your emotional health, and your people around you, and your everything and your everything. It's like, and I mean, a couple of years ago, I interviewed a trainer who did business coaching while people were working out with her, because they would ask questions and she would business coach them, and they'd stop and write a note, and then they'd do more working out. I'm like, nice. That's so smart. Two birds with one stone.
Right.
And so we were talking about how, this mindset thing, which people talk about mindset a lot. And I think there's a reason behind it. Sometimes I go, oh, everybody's talking about it, I don't want to talk about it, because I'm the stubborn contrarian. But I think people are starting to realize, oh, if I think this way, this is going to happen. If I change this thinking, this is going to happen. But I haven't heard anybody comment on how it manifests in the physical body before. So what have you seen the most, or most common, or most unusual, maybe even, or both? What do you see when you're helping people with that, like, mind and body? And
yeah, I love this. Is one of my favorite questions. So I like to look at it twofold. So the more like higher level general way I like to look at it is from a perspective of it affecting the actions that we're going to take, right? So if I'm constantly beating myself up, if I'm constantly having disempowering thoughts, like you're not good enough, or, who are you to think that you can do X, Y, Z, or all of these things, I'm likely, I should say, not going to be very empowered to show up for myself and take the necessary actions that I need to do. So to your point, going to the gym, getting that trainer or that nutritionist, following the plan,
owning a coach.
Exactly. And, you know, prioritizing myself, because so many times, and I was one of these people too, a caregiver for both of my parents, I see women caring for everybody else, whether it's their kids, their families, their clients, their, you know, whatever it is, and putting themselves at the end of the list, right? And so when we have those disempowering thoughts and we're not able to essentially support ourselves and be our own biggest cheerleader, we're unlikely, or it's going to be much harder. We're going to feel more resistance in showing up and taking the action. So that more high level general way of how mindset affects how physical health, you know, either how we move toward that or how we don't, essentially. But
Right.
At a deeper level, what we've seen, and there's a lot of clinical studies now to show this, you know, we have a thought, we have a belief, right? That actually literally triggers a neurochemical response in the body. So when we have emotions, we feel changes in our physiology, right? Like when I'm mad, I might see my face start to get flushed or get red. When I'm nervous or I'm anxious, I feel those butterflies in my stomach. Like there are very basic examples every single day of how our body responds to what we're thinking and what we're feeling. And when we're doing that, we're living, or if we're doing that constantly, I should say, we're living in a state of like hypervigilance from a nervous system perspective. And when our nervous system is constantly activated, we're not allowing ourselves time to rest, to digest, to essentially do the repair functions that are needed. We're producing cortisol and stress hormones from the adrenals at a higher rate. And those all have downstream physiological consequences. So again, if we're constantly telling ourselves we're not good enough, or we're constantly beating ourselves up, or maybe we had this really bad thing. This was actually a thing for me. I did not realize until probably 5 years after my mom had passed. I thought I had dealt with the grief and the sadness. I wasn't. I was masking it, and I was using productivity. I was using dopamine hits from doing cool things in life to just suppress the fact that I never actually addressed what I was feeling from her loss. And I started to feel it manifest for me as gut dysfunction, feeling bloated, feeling tired, all of those things. And I literally, when I started to address those things alone, I lost 10 pounds, not from doing any kind of different diet, not from doing any kind of different workout, but from simply slowing down, tuning in, and becoming aware of what was actually happening, like in conjunction with my mind, my emotions, and then my body, and giving that space to process. And I am a big advocate of, you know, working with a therapist or working with other practitioners as needed for that kind of thing. But it absolutely can and does manifest in physical conditions.
Right. And it is true. It's funny. This is like, you know, synchronicities. So the episode just before you was a functional nutrition specialist.
Nice.
And it was kind of the same thing. It's like these things that are happening in the body are, you know, you're not digesting properly, and the stress hormones, and it's affecting all of your systems. And it's the same thing. I mean, I have a client that I train still, you know, I've probably been training her for 10 years. And sometimes I have to say to her, no, we're not working out today. You're going to go and take a nap. Yeah. Because you are stressed out and this isn't going to help you.
Right.
You know, it's like, because we have that mindset, you just push harder, you know, push through it and work harder. And I was the same when my grandfather passed 2 years later. I just said, why am I still crying? And I actually went to a hypnotherapist because I like to fast track.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about it with a therapist. I just want to know what's going on in here.
Right.
Right. So, and well, then I spent 2 years with the hypnotherapist unraveling my life, which was awesome, by the way. Don't be scared, people. No being scared. It was actually really amazing. And I find that I just feel like sometimes people are afraid to look because they don't want to dislike what they see. But if you're already giving yourself a hard time, take a look, because you might be wrong. I know you are wrong. Guaranteed. And if you look, you'll go, oh, actually, I'm pretty awesome, right? Are there tools that you give people to help them with that shift?
For sure. So a lot of that shift happens when we go through that initial breakthrough session. But again, I have like follow-up mindset calls with clients, and we do a lot of different NLP techniques. So things like anchoring, swish patterns, which is basically taking an internal representation of, you know, something. It can be a belief, it can be an unwanted action or behavior, and we change how the subconscious mind associates with that thing so that we can make a different decision or act differently or believe something different. And then I find that, through continual coaching and reinforcement, again, like anything, that muscle internally becomes stronger and stronger. So I'm so individualized in the way I work with each person, because I think certain people respond really well to different types of things. And so I'm all about building out a toolbox for clients and then helping them navigate, when we need which tool.
Well, and fad diets and the fad things that people follow drive me crazy, because I've said for so many years, everybody's an experiment of one. Your life, your experiences, even how your body works. Yeah, we all kind of have the same parts, but they don't all work the same from case to case. So even though the 8 hours sounds like, whoa, 8 hours, but it probably goes by pretty fast.
It does.
Like probably, if somebody said you're going to go into an 8-hour workshop, I'd be like, yeah. But I feel like that kind of work that you're doing is just like people will have so many realizations. It's like a fuel to keep going and keep going. And it's interesting. I've never heard of a swish pattern. Mm-hmm. I feel like I just like, whoosh, I imagine it's like, so wish that out of the way.
It is. It's very much like that. It's very much like that. And it's just one of the many, many NLP tools and techniques that we have. And of course, there are other things. I'm a big advocate of meditation. I'm a big advocate of, I'm personally so into journaling. I was really hesitant when I first started. I was like, I know everybody journals. I was recommending it to clients, but I truthfully at first wasn't doing it as much myself. And the more I started writing, I was like, wow, there's stuff coming out that I didn't really think was there. And so there's just, again, so many different things that we can do. I'm very much also an advocate of just experiencing joy in your life. So a lot of times homework for my clients to just reconnect with themselves and reconnect with that inner spark is like, plan 1 hour this week to do something that you love just for the sake of doing it, not for the sake of productivity or making more money or anything like that, just because. And I find that it's really hard to be stressed out. It's really hard to be sad. It's really hard to be angry when you're in a state of pure joy.
Yeah. I mean, they can't live in the same house together. No. Well, they're like two sides. I think of Rumi a lot. I think it's Rumi, or it's the prophet. Khalil Gibran, sorry. Two sides. It's like, if you're on the joy side, you can't be angry. Correct. They can't be in the same time. Right. Unless there's something socially wrong with you, like a sociopath or something. I don't know.
I have yet to encounter that. So fingers crossed, I don't get any of those.
Yeah. Right? Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine. And so you work mainly with women or solely with women, or?
I work with men and women, but I primarily work with women. If you were to go to my website and look at my marketing, it's all female focused. And I just find that, I relate obviously better to the female experience. However, I do work with men and I love my men, especially when it comes to the mindset work. They're great. They want to do the things.
Overachievers, right?
Yeah, they really are. They really are. Sometimes it makes my job easier. I'm not going to lie, but yeah.
I'm going to kill this. I'm going to be the best mindset person. That's hilarious. And what is your website? We're going to put it in the show notes, but we'll sell everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's www.alliecasshealth.com.
Cass with 2 S's.
Cass with 2
easy
S's,
to remember,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I love easy to remember websites. We're going to put it in the show notes. And can they find your socials and everything there?
Yes. I am on Instagram primarily and Facebook, and my handle is same thing at Allie Cass Health.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing. There are so many ways to be healthy, and so many people who I feel like they desire better health. Like, who wouldn't want to be healthier?
Right. For sure.
But are kind of at a loss of even where to begin. Do you find there's a first step that usually you give people besides your 8-hour meeting?
Yes, that is not the first step. No. Okay. So for individuals who might know what they need to do, but just feel overwhelmed or feel like there's so many things to do, I would say just pick one thing. I like to equate health to investing, right? Like you put $1 in your savings account, your high yield savings account, every day. And for the first year, maybe 2 years, you're like, wow, I'm not making that much money. But over time, that result starts to compound. And all of a sudden, you're getting exponential gains. So your health is the same way. Pick one thing and just really focus on that. Maybe that's going for a 30-minute walk every single day if you tend to be rather sedentary. Maybe it's drinking more water. Maybe it's focusing on more whole quality foods or high quality foods, excuse me. Maybe it's even just practicing awareness around how you're talking to yourself. So if you know that there are things that you could be doing, I would say just pick one and start with that. Now, if you're like, I don't even know where to start, like this is way too much for me, connect with a coach, a practitioner. If it's me, amazing. If it's not, that's okay too. I think there are so many people out here in this industry who genuinely want to help. And I think that, clarity is really helpful when you have that third party or that person that can come in and look at what you're experiencing objectively and have the knowledge to say, okay, this is the best step forward. So, asking for help, I think, is such a powerful thing, no matter what regard it is. And I think that we need more of that in our society. I know I used to not be good at asking for help. And it's something that as I've opened myself up to that, it's changed my life in so many ways.
Yeah. I talked to somebody last week who was talking about a book she had read where the author referred to, you're trying to reach these heights and you're thinking, I'm going to get there all by myself. And they said, but help is the scaffolding that's going to help you climb higher. Mm-hmm. It's so much easier when you have scaffolding in place is to get up higher instead of trying to scale the side of a building by yourself.
Right.
So it is very true. And I just remember like 30 years ago when the doctor first said to me, you need to lose some weight. I'm like, and then she said, okay, bye. I'm like, okay, I don't even know where to start. Yeah. So that's when I had to go out and find people who knew to help me. Pardon me. I know that all of the people in the industry just want to help people get better. We're just here to help you, friends.
Right.
So definitely, follow your instinct, talk to lots of people, follow the breadcrumbs to your best life, right?
Exactly.
Because you don't have to be sad and depressed and feel like, is this all there is for the rest of my life?
No. And one thing I want to say on that note too, is I was 22 years old when I sat there and thought that, and I thought I'm way too young for that. I now know that any age is too young to feel that way. It's not because you're getting older. It's not because of this circumstance. Like, you deserve to have the life that you want and to feel the way that you want, no matter where you're at in life.
That's a beautiful mic drop. Oh my God.
Thank you.
Guys, that was a definite word of wisdom right there. Thank you so much. I always end on a word of wisdom and you just dropped it. So I'm like, okay,
perfect.
Let's go. No kidding. Thank you so much for sharing all of this information. And oh my gosh. Yeah. Friends, podcast land. Just go check out the information. Click over to the website. Nobody's going to say that you did something wrong, right? Correct. All right. Thank you so much, Allie. It was such a pleasure talking with you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
All right. Friends, share this with someone who you know needs some help. All right. Love you guys. We'll see you next time. Hello, my friend. I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you found it useful and you're like me and you want to help others, please share this, comment, like, subscribe, all of those things that will help this podcast to be found by more people. And if you found it useful, there's a chance that someone else will find it useful as well. If you ever have any questions, I am here to answer your questions. I would love to help you. My direct email address is info@heatherstewart.coach. You can also find me at heatherstewart.coach. And if you go over to my website, you will find copies of the podcast. You'll find the link to my Instagram and my Facebook. And I do have a personal request because I do want to help as many people as I can with these podcasts. So if you could give me a review, and my friend, I would love if you gave me a good one. If you could share this, if you could send it out into the world, I would truly appreciate it. I hope that you have an amazing day. I hope that you are finding your way back to wellness by getting back to me. Take care, my friend. Be well, and we will see you again next time.